I want to thank everybody who watched my last video, why I left the OPC for the PCUSA. I got a lot of encouraging responses. It's doing pretty well. It's got thousands of views, hundreds of comments. So thank you everybody for watching that and subscribing to my channel. I do want to grow this channel, so if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to be talking about mainline Protestantism quite a bit on this channel, and also some other things. I really like books and Bibles and theology and stuff like that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you can go ahead and subscribe as well. Some people on that video left some really cool responses. One example is this one. Now, if you type out a really good comment that's good faith, has some good questions, good pushback, objections to what I'm saying, please go ahead and leave it in the comments, because I might choose it and make a video using your comment like I am with this person right here. Wushu Bear 1, thank you for your comment. This is an awesome comment. He gave me 4 points of disagreement that he wanted me to answer. Instead of answering it directly, I asked him if I could make a video about it, and he said yes. So I'm going to go through and answer these objections. I'm not going to read the whole comment, but I have it right here on the screen so that no one can accuse me of strawmanning this guy's opinion. You could go to the video called "Why I Left the OPC for the PCUSA," and you could just read the comment for yourself right there from the source. This comment is mostly focused on the Machen trial, which I did mention briefly in that video, although I did say in that video, and I don't think a lot of people really listened to me, that video wasn't really meant to be like a really well-informed, well-researched kind of thing. It was more just me sitting down and giving you a synopsis for how I've been thinking through this for the past 3 years, really. So anyway, let's get to this comment, because I could talk about that. I'm sure I'll talk about that more in the future. As far as the Machen trial is concerned, most of the history done on this subject from a historiographical standpoint has been from NAPARC Christians, people who are very apologetic to Machen's side of the whole situation. And because of that, I think the whole thing has been really sanitized. Machen is really a lionized figure. He's seen as just this hero, and I sort of pushed back on that and objected to that a little bit in the video, and I will do that more in the future as well. But just a little bit of background on that and why I talk about this the way that I do, because I really feel strongly about this. The second thing I want to say is I don't want to disparage Machen or people who like Machen. I like Machen. I use his Greek grammar all the time. I really like his book, Christianity and Liberalism. It's got a lot of really helpful stuff in it. It's this specific situation that I would not be on Machen's side about, given the amount of research I've done it. And most of the research I've done is from NAPARC sources, because that's where most of the secondary treatments come from, the secondary sources. But anyway, let's get into this guy's comment. I'm not going to read the whole comment. Like I said, it's right in front of you. I'm just going to go point by point. There's 4 points that he asks me to consider. The first one is, what is your source that Machen has such a flippant, don't care attitude toward the church authority? I apologize for framing it in that way. That's not really what I meant. I wasn't saying that he just had this flippant, don't care attitude overall. I was more saying that Machen, in regards to what the church was trying to get him to do, it seems like he really kind of already made up his mind, and that he wasn't really going to listen to what they were going to say. He didn't respect them anymore, and I think that's quite understandable given his position and given what the church was doing and the circumstances that he was involved in. As far as like what sources we get that from, you could just search New York Times Machen, and a bunch of comments that Machen made to the New York Times will come up. And if you read those, I think you might get what I'm saying. I don't have any examples for today. I'm saving that for the big long video that I have, but he talks about, this is before the trial concluded, or before it even starts in some cases. He talks about a new Presbyterian church, a new institution that will uphold traditional Presbyterianism. It's kind of like the continuing Presbyterian church. That's the attitude about it. He already was talking about this before the trial went on, before the church had demanded that he dissolve that independent board for foreign missions. So just search New York Times, Machen, and you'll get all of that. We're going to talk more about that as this video gets going, because it's really important for kind of understanding why a lot of mainline Presbyterians don't really drink the Kool-Aid when it comes to Machen and his, for lack of a better word, antics. The other source for this is just what happened. I mean, would you agree that the presbytery gave him an order and he already decided before they gave him the order that he wasn't going to do it? That's what the whole trial was about. I'm not doing this. So that's where I get the impression that he had this I don't care attitude toward church authority. It comes from just what happened. I mean, it's kind of like goes without needing to cite a source, because like in college, I have a degree in history. You don't have to cite a source for the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, because no one's going to be like, oh, what's your source, bro, that happened? It's like, we know that happened. We know that J. Gresham Machen disobeyed the presbytery, and that's why I say he did not respect their authority. The second point he makes is really about the Independent Missions Board, and he kind of goes into detail. Well, you know what? I'll read this part. The second thing that Machen was involved with was an independent missions board. The denomination was sending missionaries who denied in the resurrection of Christ. As a Chinese Christian, I grieve the missionaries like Pearl Buck were representing a false Christ to my people. The board that Machen and others set up was so their money would be used in support of the missionaries who preach Christ and Him crucified, rather than those who deny the gospel in the name of Christ. While Presbytery was mired in a loyalty to a denominational board, can we really say that there is no heroism when others act on a priority instead of reach the millions rushing toward a Christless eternity? Sorry for reading that so horribly. The screen's really far away and my eyes aren't that good. A couple of issues with this. One thing that really doesn't get mentioned when people are talking about this is the fact that Machen was kicked out of the official board for foreign missions. Now, just think about this for a second, okay? Maybe I'm not saying he should have been kicked out. Maybe he shouldn't have been. He was kicked out for reasons we'll get to in a minute. It has something to do with the New York Times comments. But Machen was kicked out. Imagine a situation with me. Imagine you work for a company and you serve on their committee, their Christmas party planning committee. And for one reason or another, maybe your boss just doesn't like you. Maybe he's a jerk. Maybe you weren't doing a good job. Whatever the reason was, your boss told you you're no longer on the committee. You can't serve on the committee and plan a Christmas party. But then you went and started your own committee in response. What would you think about that if you were the boss? I think you would immediately say that is insubordination. That's why people like me and the Presbytery of New Brunswick and lots of other conservative PCUSA people say, yeah, that was insubordination. The other issue, the idea that the official board for foreign missions was just doing these insane things and they were just sending all kinds of like liberal atheist heretics overseas to minister to people is false. Pearl Buck was a unique example, and the board did not handle that correctly. They should have pulled her out. Like, trust me, I'm not like on their side necessarily, but the idea that this was just a widespread issue is not really true. The vast majority of the missionaries backed by the official board for foreign missions, solid, Orthodox, conservative, Westminsterian, good traditional Christians that identified as fundamentalists at the time. The idea that a independent board for foreign missions, one with like 10 people max, were going to set up this board and direct their own funds to backing their ministers that they liked, who, by the way, were already receiving funds from the official board for foreign missions, was going to have more money, more resources to reach millions, is false. The official board was reaching millions with like good theology. It's just that there were circumstances, very publicized circumstances in which it wasn't, which should have been handled better. This idea that the independent board was this hero coming in for the rescue, fixing all these issues, no. Honestly, it would have been way better if Machen just kind of kept his mouth shut, didn't offend a lot of people, and just stayed on the board so he can remain influential, so that that board could be stronger. Because this is the problem with the schismatic mindset. It's like this mentality that you're going to go start your own thing and it's somehow going to be bigger, better. It's going to support millions, as you say in your comment. I just don't see that. Okay, the third point is a big one. I've been wanting to talk about this for months. My commenter, Wushu Bear here, my good friend, thank you for this comment, by the way. He makes the point that the presbytery denied testimony from Machen's side that had anything to do with doctrinal issues. Now you can read the rest of his statement here. It's right in front of you. He talks about how it's an abuse of authority and that it's unchristian. Now, this is true. The presbytery did say we don't want basically theological debate happening here because they didn't view this as a theological situation. I know that this sounds kind of ridiculous to some people. It's not ridiculous at all. This is very normal practice in even conservative Presbyterian churches. Where we get the idea that this was the case is from Machen himself. I go back to those New York Times statements that he made, where he literally said, they won't let me make my doctrinal statements, they won't let me make my doctrinal case, therefore they're unchristian, they're unbrotherly, they're unloving, they're uncharitable, this is so wrong. Look at me. He's going to the media saying this. This is where we get this idea from. The reason they said this is because the entire trial was an insubordination trial about a very specific line in the Presbyterian BCO, Book of Church Order. And the thing is, like, you have to remember, this is not like a public debate. This is to be considered a court. Now, what Machen wanted to do was he wanted to stand up in front of his presbyters and he wanted to basically lecture them on theology. He wanted to give them the why. Why did I set up this mission board? What is the biblical arguments for what I was doing? And all of this. They weren't saying he couldn't pick up his Bible and show why that specific entry on the BCO was wrong. They weren't saying that at all. He was welcome to do that. That's what they were arguing about. What they didn't want him to do was stand up there and lecture them on why the Independent Board for Foreign Missions needed to happen because the official Board for Foreign Missions was theologically incorrect in this way, in this way, in this way. This is Machen rallying his base, trying to get the public on his side. And again, this idea that, they didn't let me make any theological issues. How could you do that? You're a Christian. Everything is theological. This is a very fundamentalist mindset. The presbytery was trying to do business. They were trying to handle this act of insubordination. Do I agree with them that this needed to be taken to this length? No. But they didn't have the privilege of having the public on their side and being able to go to the media and talk about him like he was doing to them. And this is partially what I'm talking about with the whole Machen trial situation being very sanitized for the NAPARC or conservative evangelical position. Okay, the fourth and final point that I want to get to here is he asked me this question: have you actually tried ministering in a liberal or even moderate PCUSA? And this kind of gives me the impression that my commenter here, as much as I love him and thank you for this wonderful comment, great job, gives me the impression he didn't watch the whole video, because I've been in a liberal church like as a member for a few months, and I've been like making myself part of the community and the circle, talking to a lot of people, making connections for really years at this point. And so the answer is yes, I have. And I'm glad you have too. You claim that you have. Here's the thing, guys. This guy's trying to say that they're just like impossible to reach. These people they're very closed off. Yes, there are individuals like that. The vast majority are not like that at all. They may disagree with us traditionalists, but for the most part, they're very open to having you around. They're open to your perspective. They're open to maybe learning something from you. I know that sounds crazy to some people who have been told that You know, the PCUSA is just full of these nasty people who are just going to slit your throat if you mention anything theologically conservative. But it's not true. These people, trust me, I'm not in a conservative context, I would say, at all. And these people love us. They really respect our opinion. They're learning from me and I'm learning from them, and it's a good thing. And let me just say, the people in my church, the people in my presbytery, they love Christ. And yes, we are there to be influential. We're there to help guide people, add perspective that maybe they're not thinking about that might guide them toward the truth. And hopefully the Holy Spirit leads or uses us to do that. And on the flip side of that, hopefully we can learn something from them. You know, I want to make a video at some point what we can learn from liberal Christians, because they are getting some things right that conservatives are not getting right. Well, anyway, go read the whole comment because there's a lot of good things in it. Thank you for leaving this comment, Wushu Bear 1. You are a stud if you're a guy and a darling if you're a female. I don't know what you are, but you're awesome, and this is a good faith comment. This is the type of comment I want on my videos. You know, one person said, because I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I was like, yeah, you know, this video is not going to be really well thought out. And one person was like, you were right that wasn't very well thought out. And I was like, yeah, thank you for that. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm going to be posting a new video on Thursday, so keep a lookout for that. Have a great day.